China's policies to stop COVID are getting pretty extreme, and they may even have the opposite effect. Welcome to Chine Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. China is facing yet another wave of COVID, and the Communist Party, in their infinite wisdom, is trying to fight COVID the same way they struggle against political dissidents, by locking it up. Unfortunately, it's harder to lock up an invisible virus that spreads through the air. So the party has a backup plan. Locking up people. They're good at that. China's lockdown system is extremely strict, but at the same time, it's rife with government incompetence and full of gaping holes. And that leads to COVID measures that can only be described as insane. Like, let's say you're in the city of Tianjin, but there aren't enough COVID testing sites. So when the government requires you to get tested, you show up to this one. I'm going to say this is a bad idea. Times Square on New Year's Eve had more social distancing. And even if you test negative, maybe someone in your family or close contacts tested positive. Actually, forget close contacts. Depending on how strict local authorities are, even if someone in your apartment building tests positive, you may be sent to a quarantine center.
拉我们来集中隔离，然后让我们站到这也没有人管，然后大家在这聚集交叉感染。你看还抱个这么小的孩子，看这就是住宿的环境，没有暖气，什么都没有，已经很久没有人住了。
I feel like the biggest problem here is the bunk beds. 8 people to a tiny, unheated room? That's not containing the virus, that's giving people a VIP pass to get infected. But maybe they're not looking to prevent COVID infections once people are at a quarantine center. Like I mentioned in an episode last week, Xi'an officials have said they basically stopped the spread of COVID-19 because all the new cases found were among people who were already quarantined. So if you're already quarantined and you get COVID, it doesn't count for Chinese officials. But at least people at that unheated quarantine facility had rooms, unlike these folks. Authorities told them to go to a hotel to quarantine.
业主，我们现在被拉到这个丽苑酒店，但是我们刚到以后就发现这里面已经没有房间了。我们大概人数有80到100人不等。我们是2点接到通知，3点出发的，现在已经将近有1个小时，没有人管我们。
Now you might think, wow, the authorities are really incompetent. But those are the wrong thoughts to have. Chinese authorities are very competent. And you can see that with totally unstaged videos like this one, showing food delivery in Xi'an. Is a human chain requiring at least 28 people really the optimal way to get food to everyone? For a city of 13 million people, I'm going to go with, don't think about it too hard. No, sorry. I have to talk about this. It's just too stupid. I mean, just drive the truck down the street. Double park outside the building. It's not like there's any traffic because no one is allowed to go outside. Those food deliveries were because people were complaining they didn't have enough food to eat after authorities stopped letting people leave their homes. Chen Jianfeng, deputy head of Xi'an's Commerce Department, on Wednesday, said the main reason people were having difficulty buying food was a shortage of workers that was affecting deliveries. Shortage of workers and difficulty buying food. Yes, because they were all busy making videos like this. And yet, somehow people there were still starving. Of course, if you're hungry, you can always just sleep more instead. That's an actual propaganda message that was being broadcast in one Xi'an neighborhood. For some places under lockdown in China, people absolutely can't leave their homes. No, seriously, they can't, because Chinese officials will use advanced technology to keep you locked inside. And if you try to go out to buy food, you could get in trouble. Like this guy who was caught after buying a bag of steamed buns. Somehow I don't think he got to keep his steamed buns. Some people who went out to buy food were forced to make a confession video. That guy got off easy, unlike people who actually complain about the lockdown policies. Authorities have banned negative posts about the lockdowns, and they've put people in jail for it. But it's not just complaints that can get you jail time. It can also be for spreading rumors, in particular if those rumors go against the government narrative. And yet, in a country where people are imprisoned for spreading rumors, people don't seem to really trust the government. In this video, a police officer is telling people not to panic buy groceries. Yes, you should trust the authorities. And don't forget to say thank you.
是那个话吗？
好，感谢政府，感谢政府。
That must be why so many people are still praising China for its pandemic response. And now it's time for me to answer a question from you, a fan who supports China Uncensored on Patreon or Locals. Robert Magyar on Patreon asks, wondering, do dissidents in China use VPNs or Tor to hide their identity, and if not, why? Great question. Yes, dissidents in China use various methods to hide their identities, but it's getting harder and harder. About 5 years ago, Chinese authorities began cracking down on unauthorized VPNs. But you can still use a government-controlled VPN, like whatever the state-run Global Times uses when it logs into Twitter, which is banned in China. But government VPNs can log your activities, and then go after you based on what you do online. There are still private VPNs that work in China, but they're illegal. I, of course, recommend Surfshark, which sponsors some of our episodes, but I've heard that it doesn't always work in every part of China. It's a constant game of cat and mouse for VPN providers to keep up with China's firewall technology. Dissidents also use Tor, but Tor can't connect directly from China to the outside internet. You have to have some technical expertise to be able to set up a bridge. So Chinese authorities have set up a lot of barriers for their citizens, and that's why most Chinese people don't bother to circumvent the censorship. It's just too much trouble. But for motivated political dissidents, anything is possible. Thanks for your question, Robert. Be like Robert and support China Uncensored with $1 or more per episode on Patreon, or become a paying subscriber on Locals. In each place you get different perks, but in both, you can ask me questions I'll answer on the show. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.